Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Shyann Malone, exclusively on ASBN.com.
Hello everyone, I'm Shyann Malone. You're watching another edition of The Small Business Show. Today we're discussing how to launch a brand against a larger, more established competitor. Joining us now to talk more about this, Bill Harper, the CEO and Chief Creative Officer of BrandBossHQ. Bill, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us. And
Thank you for having me.
We watch you on social media, and we love your tips and all your marketing strategies. Talk to us about this recent TikTok. This topic you were talking about comparing two companies, Hug Sleep and Snuggie. Elaborate on this for me.
Yeah, so the point really was that a lot of companies will say, well, if we're a new company and we're coming up against a big competitor that has a lot of momentum and a lot of consumer buy-in and a lot of money, how can we do something that's going to compete? And Snuggie is one of those brands. They are a heavyweight in the category. They're a $500 million company, give or take. And along comes Hug Sleep, and they had a really innovative way to come at it. Now, if they had been a traditional company, they would have tried to talk about their product. They would have said things like different material that's softer, or a better zipper, or the fact that they have a little hole in the bottom that you can poke your feet out if your feet get hot, right? Like, they would have tried to focus on the features and benefits. But instead, what they did was really smart. They came out and they said, we're for the anxious sleeper. We're for the person who needs to feel a little extra hug in their world, right? And the adage is that we all need 7 hugs a day, and most people don't get them. So the whole notion of this idea was really a fundamental human truth. That feeling of being swaddled or caressed or held is something that makes people feel comfortable. And so by suggesting that they were a product that was designed specifically for the anxious sleeper, they had a decided advantage over Snuggie, who has really fallen back into we have 34 flavors, and you can get 2 for 1 or whatever. They've fallen down into the price zone. So this was a really smart strategy to come into this marketplace, and I think it's going to give them a decided advantage in making headway against that larger competitor.
So safe to say you think they hit the mark?
I do think that they hit the mark. And I think that it's the same resonant tone that Dollar Shave Club was able to achieve when they went after the big groups like Gillette and Schick. You know, here are two powerhouse, in this case, significantly powerhouse entities that have been in the business for a long time. And what Dollar Shave Club was able to do was to come in on one key feature and say, stop being taken for a ride financially. You're paying $18 for a razor because we want high profit margins and we want to have big campaigns, big marketing campaigns. Instead, we're going to go small, and we're going to say, for the value person, for the one who appreciates a good deal, we're going to give you something that is inexpensive, works reliably, and comes and replaces itself on a regular basis. And that model led to a $100 million sale.
You have to admit, though, it's risky to go after such competitors, right? When they have so much market share, they've been a brand name out there. Yet Hug Sleep did so. What do you think some of the, weaknesses Snuggie's had?
Well, actually, I think it's not a big risk. In fact, I think the risk is in not going head-to-head with them because you don't generate any attention. And I think that's exactly the point that most businesses fail. They're terrified that if they take on the giant, that they will somehow get squashed. But the truth of the matter is that these large organizations are kind of like the Spanish Armada, if we remember our history, and it takes them too long to turn the boats. They can't just operationally pivot like a small company can. So actually the advantage is really to the smaller competitor to be able to quickly move in, take a small claim. By the time the big entity is really paying attention to it, the small group will have had traction. Liquid Death has proved this. Dollar Shave Club has proved this. The riskiest thing you can do is not having a voice that's worth listening to. Not taking the risk is the biggest risk that you can take.
In the long run, which company do you think will do better between Snuggie and Hug Sleep?
Well, there's no denying the fact that the momentum of the larger organization is likely to continue to be a large thing. Dollar Shave Club did not upset Gillette and Schick. Neither of them went out of business. But what it did do was it robbed significant enough mind share away from them and purchase away from them that they became a serious contender in the category to the point where they were purchased. So I think it's not whether Will Hug Sleep come and completely dominate the category? That really comes down to a question of how long are they willing to stay in the game and how innovative in terms of their messaging are they willing to continue to be. For example, if they begin branching out to other products that help to alleviate the notion of anxiety and they start owning anxiety relief, then all of a sudden they've opened up a significant potential for revenue streams, new revenue streams into the company. If you go and take a look at Snuggie.com today, what you're going to see is it's all 2 for 1. I buy 2, I get 1 free. It's all price and promotion. That brand would have to significantly pivot to be able to tell a story meaningful enough to get back in the game and actually compete with a group like them. So the advantage at this moment is with Hug Sleep, and in a big way.
And how can new business owners use this lesson to their advantage?
So I think the biggest piece here is get your consumer research and understand what pain points exist that are not being adequately served by the competitive set, because there's always an opportunity. There is always a toehold that you can grab and some clear water that you can sail into and own as a territory. It doesn't have to reside on innovation. It doesn't. There's nothing innately unique about the idea of a sleep sack. That has been done and done and done. What was interesting about it was the fact that they tailored the experience to be around the idea of embrace. And in that embrace actually had a very specific and intentional outcome that you would be less anxious. This is where that strategy came from. So they went and they talked to sleepers and they found out, what is it about sleep that, what disrupts your sleep, or why aren't you sleeping as well as you could, or why would you use a product like this, et cetera. And somebody along the line identified the fact that, well, when I'm anxious because of all these things that are happening, I don't sleep as well. And they were like, you know what makes people feel good? Being hugged. Why don't we try this? And by positioning it that way, they were able to stake out some really valuable territory.
Interesting points. Any final thoughts you'd like to add, Bill?
No, I think the biggest one that I want to just leave with people is a repeat that the riskiest thing you can do is not taking the risk. If you come out and you are beige or vanilla in terms of your messaging, it just makes it that much harder for you to succeed.
Okay, all right, well said. Bill Harper, CEO and Chief Creative Officer of BrandBossHQ. Thanks so much for your time today. We enjoyed it. And thank all of you for watching the Small Business Show exclusively right here on ASBN.com and now streaming on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Shyann Malone, exclusively on ASBN.com.